Hey folks, it's Professor Diffley, continuing here with video 2 from Module 3, Chapter 2. We left off here with this, virtue and moral virtue. So let's keep going. Next slides, just different ways of seeing this. So virtue in the center consists of these three things: character, good judgment, ethical decision making. What is moral virtue? Well, you need the habit of right desire plus disposition to make right choices equals moral virtue. Again, just different ways of visualizing and thinking about these topics. All right, moving on. Another ancient Greek philosopher, Plato. Plato here, Socrates' student, founded the Academy in Athens, one of the first schools, wrote the Republic. He's important to us because he says few laws are needed if if our citizens had highly developed moral character. So if everybody was good, we wouldn't need laws. Well, what do you guys think? Do we need laws? Yeah, mostly when I ask that question in class, everyone says yes, because people are not good. Not everybody's good. We all vary on how much we think people are actually good or not. There's a lot of jobs in criminal justice, so, that one thing might suggest that maybe people aren't that good. Not everybody is, so we need them, but who knows? But it also argues that if you want justice in the world, and this is very important, you too need to be moral and just. If you want these things, you need to act that way as well. We shouldn't expect people to be moral when we ourselves are immoral. So that's an important concept there. But moving on to Aristotle. This is Socrates' student, and Aristotle is important because he is the one that comes up with virtue theory or virtue ethics. So some stuff, again, student of Plato. He founds his own school, the Lyceum in ancient Athens. Nicomachean ethics is another way of looking at virtue ethics. This is from the textbook, almost exactly. This is really the first systematic, in-depth study of ethics. How ought people live their lives? It's interesting. He said that discussion of ethics is wasted on the young. They lack experience and are motivated by passions. So, the young do stupid things when they're young, which is kind of true. I know I did, but I'm sure you did too. What is needed is reflections on one's past and future actions, and our motivations is what gives us let me go, because that is, it was below the screen there. Reflections on one's past and future actions are the motivations for those actions are central to understanding and incorporating ethics in a person's life. What he's really saying here is that virtue, to be virtuous, to be ethical, takes practice. It is not something we're born with. It's something we learn and something we have to strive to achieve. So that's what he means. It's wasted on the young. They haven't learned enough. They haven't made enough mistakes yet. They haven't had enough practice at it, and that's what he's getting at there. And this is virtue ethics. So it's based on the idea that if a person seeks the right things, which we're going to call the real goods, in the proper ways, the result will be a morally virtuous person engaging in ethical conduct. So again, we seek the right things, the real goods, things that are good in of themselves, things we need in the proper way. So we need food, for example. Obviously, as long as we're not stealing it or doing something awful to get it, then we are probably acting morally there. Again, based on the idea that if it seeks the right things in the proper ways, the result will be morally virtuous. Individuals should seek the good for its own sake. What do we mean by that there? You should do good things because you should do good things. You shouldn't, here's an idea. A lot of religions say to get into heaven, you have to do good things. Well, if you do good things, are you doing them just because you should, because they're right, or are you doing them solely so you get into heaven? You get what I mean by that? It's your motivations do matter. You should do things because it's right to do, not because you think you will be rewarded as a result. If you're doing things only for a reward, well, what if I said, you'll get $1 million if you harm someone? Some people do it. It's not the right thing. They are motivated by the reward afterwards. So individuals should seek the good for its own sake. A good person is one who lives well, meeting his or her potential as a human being. You strive, you try to get better, as I said in the last slide, and you do right things because they are right. All right, let's look at the real goods here. This is one way he frames it. These things are good in and of themselves. They are things we should want, we need, and as long as we're going after these things, we make these priorities, then we do it in the right way, then we can be good. Point here, know all these categories. You have the bodily goods here. You have goods needed for livelihood and social goods. So know these headings and know what goes under them. So know all three social goods, know all three goods for livelihood and bodily goods. You're going to get questions on the quiz. I guarantee this will be on the midterm and the final exam at some point to either fill in the blanks here. So I'll say, the three bodily goods are food, shelter, and blank, and then you have to figure it out, and then that. So essentially be able to, if I left gaps, so say if I, deleted that, you would have to fill in what is missing. Get it? So that's, you need to be able to do it. So bodily goods, things we need. Food. Food includes water here, so food and water if you want. So look at it that way, food and water. Shelter and health. You need those things to survive, right? Goods needed for livelihood. Wealth. We need money. And enough to live decently, comfortably is another way to look at this. Comfortably is what we're looking at here. And part of this, you're going to see this especially in goods needed for livelihood, is we don't want to be greedy. We don't want to go for too much. That's it's moderation. So we want money, but we want to be comfortable. You don't need to try to get all the money in the world. As they say, money doesn't buy happiness. It causes other problems. It also could be wasteful, some would argue. But, you need to be comfortable. We all want that. Pleasure. This is where it becomes more, think about food, too. You like good food. But, again, if you eat, I love French fries. And bacon. If I just eat those, I ain't gonna live that long. It's not good for me. I'm gonna be overweight, gonna have all sorts of health problems. So, we should go for these things in moderation and just the right amount. Pleasure. If you just focus all of your life on feeling good and trying to, have pleasure, that's the only thing. That's not all you should be focusing on. That's hedonistic, as we'll see. You only care about the experience, the feeling. Not good. And knowledge, we need knowledge for livelihood, right? Our jobs, our understanding, our wisdom. Social goods, liberty, friends and loved ones, and civil peace. These are the things we're looking at there. Now, apparent goods are what get people. So, because apparent goods are things that seem like they are needed, are necessary, but they're not. They're things we might like and want, but they're not necessary, right? You don't need sweets to live, but we like them. And the goal here, apparent goods, depends on what, how much focus you put on. The problem is you should be focusing all on the real goods. These are good enough of themselves. And if you're going to go on these, is where you really need to focus on doing things in moderation. And you can see there's explanations down here in the footnotes, in the notes of there. You'll see people, pursue real goods for the sake of happiness. Eudaimonia. Again, this is covered in the videos. Make sure to see that. It's more than contentment or joy. This is a truly good life is what we're going for here. Misfortune and happiness talks about that. You'll see it there. And this goes into it deeper, the rest of the slideshow here. The moral virtue, what it becomes. But again, big key point here. We become just by doing just acts. Temperate by doing temperate acts. And brave by doing brave acts. So we achieve these things through time and through repetition and practice. So what does he mean by virtue? Again, I said we need to find sort of a moderation, a middle ground. Virtue is the average, the intermediate. It's determined, and this is really important. When we're trying to figure out what is the virtuous thing to do in any situation, it's determined by the facts of the situation themselves. It is in this place. The mean is determined by the facts of the situation at hand. So each situation is different. But here, let's look at this. Cowardice. So the two far ends, cowardice and rashness. The mean intermediate is what, that's what we're going for, courage. But courage means something different in every case. This will be discussed in one of the videos in detail with an example. But, Uh, is it courageous? You see someone being stuck up. The guy's got a gun pointed at the woman. Now you got a few things you can do. You could run away. That would be cowardice, right? And do nothing. You could also be rash and throw yourself in between the person with the gun and the woman. Is that brave? Maybe. Or is it more stupid? I mean, what are you going to do? Now you're going to get shot and she's going to get shot. You achieve nothing. Nobody wins. You're both dead. So what is the courageous thing in the action? You can't take this person out there. So you don't run away. You don't throw yourself in the middle. You call for help, for backup. And that is what you're supposed to do. So again, determining what the mean intermediate, what the virtuous right thing to do is based on all the circumstances at hand. And you'll see the video discusses that in detail. Here's the same table in different ways. This one I typed out. This one is just a scan from the book. So either way, but this is in your textbook as well. There. Major common hindrances to attaining virtue is really our self-righteousness. This is when people think they're just holier than thou. Everybody thinks they are more ethical than they really are. They don't critically evaluate themselves, as Socrates had said. The unexamined life is not worth living. Self-delusion. This is interesting. Self-delusion here can be about, and again, you'll see that there are notes down here. Self-delusion to rationalize conduct and make excuses. You'll say, oh yeah, well I know this is wrong, but hey, look, that person does it too, or that person did worse. So mine's not that bad in comparison. That's not okay. That's what children do, and we don't accept it there. Why should we accept it when adults? Oh yeah, no. Oh, like we're angels too. Oh no, you could still be criticized just because someone else did something bad doesn't give you a free pass. And selfishness, very much the same. You're gonna do things how you want to do them. Aristotle's 10 moral virtues. You see these were in the table up here. These are ones down the middle. Oop, where am I? These are ones going down the middle. Courage, temperance, all the way down to wittiness. And there it is there. And so these are discussed down here as well. So the 10 moral virtues all share the same common themes. Emphasis on maintaining an even disposition. So the middle ground, showing restraint, and placing calm and good, not being selfish, is what we're going for. And that's just a bigger showing of it. These 4 cardinal virtues: temperance, courage, prudence, justice. Note that these none of these exist by themselves. These are found by everyone. Sometimes they're in Stoicism, but they are everywhere. That these are the big 4 virtues. This becomes a big part of Christianity in the Middle Ages. Virtue ethics. Again, here's a summary. You can see that. Now let's get into the different approaches here of things. Stoicism, like I said here, see the video on Blackboard. Do not use the textbook on this one. The textbook is flat out wrong on this. Easy way of Stoicism, this was the favorite of the Romans. I think we teach it again today, is that in the face of, even though you can't change your fate, let's look at it that way. You can't change your fate. Like say you want to make the world better. You want the world to be a good place. Well, trying to do it by yourself, you're not going to achieve it. So does that mean you shouldn't do it? Of course not. You still try. You try because you can try to make the world a better place. That's what's important, is keep going and doing it. Even though you might not succeed, you try anyway. Because what's the option? Quit? Maybe you do create good. You create good amongst those around you for your loved ones. So it's still good to do. And the last thing is hedonism. Again, see the videos there. So know what hedonism in general, know the experience machine, and know egoistic hedonism. So overview of hedonism and egoistic hedonism in the textbook, but these are also covered in the video. So again, these are the big topics you need to know for the week. And then there's this 5-step approach to ethical dilemmas. Is really looking down and, do this, list these things out, and write these things out when you're trying to make a decision. But again, so these are the big topics. There's a lot here. You get 2 weeks for this, so take your time, really break it up. Again, you got 4 big topics in here: virtue theory, Stoicism, hedonism, and moral luck, and use your time wisely, and again, 2 weeks and work through these. All right, folks, thanks. Have a good one. Good luck.